Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Tuesday's training webinar. We're very fortunate again tonight to have Matt Marcus with us. We're going to be starting in 3 or 4 minutes. We'll catch you shortly. Welcome to Tuesday's training webinar. Very fortunate tonight to have Matt Marcus with us, the founder, co-founder of ISN. If you were on last week, we had a real good session with Matt. This is the second of a series of 3. I'm just going to remind you now so that you know, next Monday there won't be a webinar. Next Tuesday will be Matt's 3rd webinar, and that will be the last one until further put that date in your diary now. We will be talking about it at the end, but just to let you know that it's always good to have repetition, letting you know at least twice. So next Tuesday there will be another webinar with Matt, and without further ado, I'm going to hand you over to Matt Marcus. Over to you, Matt.
Thanks, Chris. Well, I just want to ask you guys, I want to start off asking you a question. Have you guys ever wondered why, some people, it seems like they can retain more information, and most people cannot. I struggle with that quite a bit myself, and maybe you guys can think about it. Maybe that's something that you've dealt with as well. Just you maybe learn something new, and then you think, well, I'll never forget that, and so you don't write it down, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, what was it? I can't remember what I learned. So that is what we're going to talk about as we go through the presentation today. We're going to talk about what those different things are. We're going to talk about expanding your context. So what does that mean? When you look at this image here, you see a cup, and you see it overflowing with water, and to some people maybe that's disturbing, but what this is this cup is actually your context. That's how much information you can hold, and this context is limited at this point. And so as you can see, the content that's being poured into this cup, this container, is overflowing, because no matter how much stuff you learn, no matter how much content you learn, you can only hold so much as long as you don't change your context. And so, but the good thing is that you can change it. And again, what we were just talking about, forgetting something. Sometimes we've read a book, we heard something that was really good, and then all of a sudden, it's just that the thought of it is that you can't remember it anymore. And then the problem with that is because our context is too small. And then when our context is too small, we can't fit any more information. And what we start forming unrealistic biases in life. So you see a lot of people, and maybe we look at them and say, well, they're prejudiced about that or prejudiced about this. And I'm not just talking about racism. I'm talking about just every aspect of life. And the reason for that is because we formed a bias that is our truth, and that truth can only be changed. And it doesn't mean our truth is wrong necessarily, but sometimes there's multiple truths. So why would it be a bad thing to continue to add more truths to your collection of your context? And that's what expanding your mind has to do with. And so this picture of Richard Simmons, most people have known him, but the funny thing about it is that you see people sometimes like this, and they're stuck in time. These people are maybe dressing from 20 to 30 years ago. They just don't seem to be getting on with it and figuring out something new. And the bad thing about it is that a lot of times those people, they're very rigid or unhappy people in the where they're at. But the reason why these people tend to get like this, and I'm pointing out extreme cases, but I think most of us deal with this at one level or another. But with this extreme case is because 20 to 30 years ago was when they were happiest in life. That was the point where they hit their peak. And it's unfortunate because it doesn't have to be their peak, but that was the point where they put their foot down. They stopped expanding their context. They stopped learning. And so they are no longer able to keep on growing and moving on from that kind of stuff. So even though this is a funny example, it really is sad that this is the truth. So let me just test your thought on this just a little bit. When you see this picture here, this beautiful home on the ocean, and if someone said, wow, why don't you buy this house? Don't you like this house? Isn't this something you'd want to have? What would be the first words that come to your mind? If those first words are, I can't afford this, I can't afford that, there's no way. You just joined a very, very large club, and it's something that's in our minds to think that way. And the thing about that is those words have just put you into a box, and those words mean that you are limited. You just totally limited what you can accomplish and what you can't. if you just think about just changing those words just a little bit and say, how can I afford this? You're not saying, I'm going to run out and buy the house. That's not what you're saying. What you're saying, though, is you're keeping yourself out of the box, and you're taking the limits off of what you can achieve. And so that's what we want to do. We want to focus on those kind of thoughts. That is how you expand your context. See, poor words, we're going to get some examples of those things. You hear people say often, you need to save money, you need to get ahead and put away for a rainy day, those kind of things. And savings in itself isn't necessarily a bad thing. But think about what they're talking about when they say, you need to save. Save for what? Save for retirement. Save for when you get older. Those kind of thought processes. And then you also hear you need to go to college. You need to get a high-paying job so you can save more money. And again, why is the end result always so you can afford to retire? And if this is the case where you go out and get a high-paying job, you may eventually achieve the goal that you're looking for, but it's a slow train to be on, and it's not one that I personally want to be on. And I'm guessing that you're here today, part of ISN, that you're also not wanting to be on that slow train. You want to be on a fast train. You want to get and achieve your goal as quickly as you can. So what we have to do today is we have to start changing our words. We have to expand our context. Remember at the beginning we talked about that small glass that was overflowing with too much content. It just couldn't take anymore. Well, we need to expand it. This is a 5-gallon container that holds plenty of information, and this is even limiting. You can expand it beyond this, but this is an example, because what we want is we want to be able to retain more positive words, more positive information, because words that we use, they speak life. Words are powerful. Words put together create ideas, and ideas are what makes you wealthy. Think about it this way. You're part of a team right now with ISN, and if you could just think about expanding the context of your team all by itself, think of how much that will help each person on your team and help you at the same time. That's what leads you to the success that you're looking for. Jim Rohn said it this way. He said, successful people have libraries and the rest have big screen TVs. Now, I have a TV, and I'm sure most of you probably have a TV as well. There's nothing wrong with the TV in itself. Some people, maybe it's a good thing just to get rid of the TV. But what he's talking about is he's talking about where do you spend and invest your time when you're trying to expand. Do you spend the majority of your time just crashing on the couch and just being zombified into the TV? That's what we're looking at. And the way to achieve and get out of this would be to start reading books. Now, me personally, the way my brain works, I don't focus real well on reading. I get distracted easy. So what I do is I listen to books on audio, and I listen to them at like 1.5 speed, because that way it makes it so I don't lose focus and I can just continue to focus. And that helps me. Also, the other way to do it would be to go to like a seminar on whatever it is that you're trying to get better at in life, whatever those things are. The other thing to do that's important, and I say do all 3 of these things, and that is to get a personal mentor, a coach. Those people will push you beyond your comfort zone to help you achieve that. And for me personally, this is what I've done, and it's worked great for me. I see the success, I see the changes, they're measurable, and the only thing you have to do is take action. You just do these things, and you start looking for these things, and once you take the action, then it becomes a natural process. In Newton's law, one of them talks about a body in motion wants to stay in motion, and a body at rest seeks more rest. And the problem with that is that if we're already at rest, which most people are, like if we're talking about watching TV, doing unproductive things, then that's what you continue to do. However, the good thing is you can form new habits, and when you form those new habits and you start doing it, make sure these new habits are expanding your context. That's the point of all of this. And just one of these bad mindsets with a very enclosed, we're talking about very enclosed minds, is how the poor often cling to money. I'm not talking about poor financially at all, because again, last week you heard me talk about Scrooge. You remember Scrooge is when he clings to money. He doesn't spend a penny on anything. I'm talking about a mindset for people who cling to money. We have to remember this. Money is just an idea. Money is just a means to get what you want. The idea of clinging to money, to me, makes no sense whatsoever, because money in itself is nothing. It's just an idea that somebody came up with that said, hey, why don't we, instead of carrying gold or instead of carrying commodities that we have to trade, it makes it easier. And it does. It makes it easier. If it was managed right, it'd be really great. But we won't go into that one today. But if you just wrap your head around the idea that money is just nothing more than a means to get what you want, then all of a sudden it makes a big difference. Robert Kiyosaki says broke is temporary, but poor is eternal. And we're talking about this poor mindset. See, the poor need money, and the more power you need, the more you need money, the more power you lose. And so that's important to understand. So if you're focusing on, man, I got to get more money, I need to get a higher paying job, I need to make sure I put money away just in case something happens or this happens or all these kind of things, if your main focus is there, then you're actually giving up power to money. And again, money is just an idea, so that doesn't make sense, if you really think of it that way. It's kind of like driving your car with your hands off the wheel. If you were to do that and you were riding with someone that was doing this right here, you'd be scared out of your mind. I would. It doesn't make sense. You're giving away your control to something or somebody else, and that just doesn't make sense. So this is the mindsets of what causes this. Okay, and again, we're talking about a poor in mindsets. So poor, they're victims of money. And let's talk about even financially poor. If you're talking about, say, somebody who just doesn't have the finances, they got a house or they're going to rent. It doesn't matter if they're renting or buying. They have to turn on their utilities, their electricity, your gas, and those kind of things. You have to turn those on and pay that. Well, oftentimes what they do with the poor is they have to make them pay a deposit, because oftentimes the credit's not good and so on and so forth. And then someone who has oftentimes more money and has better credit, they say, well, you don't have to pay us anything, we'll just turn your electric on. And it just doesn't seem right. When you think about that, it doesn't seem right. And that's where they get, the rich keep getting richer, and that's a poor mindset. And the thing about it is, again, it's not the poor, it's not the money that's making these people poor. That's not what it is. It's poor mindsets that are making these people poor. And that is where it all changes. Now, we're going to talk about middle class. Middle class, that affects even probably more people that are listening today on this. Middle class is slaves of money. And again, they're out there, they went to school probably in college for higher education so they can get a higher paying job, and they're constantly striving to climb the corporate ladder so that they can make more money and save more money. And the problem is if this whole process stops, then usually they can lose everything. And that causes them to be a slave of money. And again, the idea of that is it's still a poor mindset. And so we're going to try to get past all of this, and hopefully some of the things that we're going to talk about are very practical and are going to get you on a page, because I know it helped me when I learned some of this information. None of us are better than somebody else. All of us can keep learning and growing, and as we do that, we increase our knowledge, and then the intelligences that are inside of us, we can continue to grow from that. So again, poverty isn't always financial. We often talk about poverty as being financial, and it is. But poverty can affect any part of our life. Basically, if you want to look at a simple definition of poverty, poverty is having more problems than you have solutions for. That's what poverty is. So if we start becoming more solution-driven, and that includes with our finances, then our financial IQ will increase. Our intelligence with our finances will increase. Every time you solve a problem, you get smarter in that area. Every time that we have a problem that comes upon us, and then all of a sudden we blame it on somebody else, or we don't learn from it, then we gain nothing from it, and it was just a waste of time and resources. So the goal here is to continue to learn from the process, so that way you can increase your intelligence. And the other thing here is with the financially uneducated, no matter what class of people, the wealth is stolen from them. And the way it's stolen is through taxes, through inflation, through savings, and through fractional reserve. Most of you understand taxes. I mean, a lot of people, they lose half of their money through taxes all by themselves. Inflation is, I would say, less people know about it, but I still think a lot of people do. And inflation is real simple. We just are losing buying power. And then savings, think about inflation and think about savings. Those two connect. If you're saving money, how much is your bank giving you for that savings? It definitely isn't enough to keep up with inflation, I wouldn't think. Even if you put it into a higher level of savings where you can't touch the money, it still doesn't keep up with inflation. Now, fractional reserves, we're not going to talk about that today too much, but because I know Chris has done some trainings on this as well before. But what I do want to tell you about fractional reserves, I want to give you a physical example. In 1910, the average household had one stream of income that was coming in. That was it. And that was normal. Now, today, the average household has two streams of income coming in. That one stream of income from 1910 is about equal to two streams of income in today's money. Now, that's not even including that back then people didn't make 40, 50, thousand a year back then. Back then, people made a lot less money. So that's not even including the differences in how much more we get paid today. But on top of that, there's two streams of income coming in today. And so if you look at that, and people have a tendency to not think for themselves and look over the history, that tells you we have a problem. And that problem is with our government continually printing money and letting people borrow money on money that's not really there or accounted for. That's fractional reserve. But to keep printing money, even though the government knows that it's harming each of our countries, and yet they do it anyway, to me, that's insanity. That's government insanity. But let me ask you something. If you are continually trying to work to save more money, and even know that this money is diminishing in buying power, wouldn't that be personal insanity? That would be the question you have to ask yourself. I just am trying to make it so you guys think for yourselves and not be fed whatever it is that everybody is being told out there. Albert Einstein said, we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking that we used when we created them. So the solution then would be to think differently. Don't think the same thoughts. Change your thoughts. Rethink things. And sometimes, we live in a box, as we talked about earlier. You live in this box, and it's really hard to think differently because we have our own bias if we're not expanding our context. So the solution would be to be an apprentice. Go look for somebody who's doing already and being successful at what you want to achieve in life, and see if they will coach you and mentor you in that process. It really works. It does, because they challenge you and they push you past comfort zones and allows you to think beyond what you've already thought for yourself. It's very, very important. Each one of us, we all are given keys to a vehicle. Okay, each vehicle has different bells and whistles, and each vehicle is made differently. But each vehicle is made to be driven and to be used, and all those bells and whistles are to be used. This vehicle I'm talking about, it's your mind, it's your abilities, your natural abilities, and it's your intelligences. So your goal would be to change your mind with positive words, to find out what it is that you have for natural abilities and what intelligences that you just can work in easier. And if you're struggling with trying to figure these things out, what you can do is talk to people who are closest to you. This is a very tangible process. Talk to people who are close to you and ask them, what do you see that I'm naturally good at? Most of the time, people can see other people's things better than you can see for yourself. Ask them, what it is do you think that I'm just good at? What are the things that you think I'm smart about? And those areas, if you get enough people, you ask enough people, and you think on it yourself a little bit, you'll be able to come up with the answer to that. It's really not a hard thing to do. But if you don't take this authority and you don't work on these, your mind and your abilities and your intelligences, those are the bells and whistles in your vehicle. If you don't work on those things, then what happens is you just kind of naturally follow each river or stream has a current. You just flow with the current, and it'll just take you where it takes you. And most people, that means getting a job and struggling in the job and trying to figure out what it is I can make more money and all this kind of stuff. That's naturally just going to flow. But if you start working on these things, you can start making clear choices for yourself, and it really does work. It's really no different than when you go to a gym. You're basically it's expanding your boundaries is what you're doing when you start thinking about those things. When you go to the gym, you're strength training. What are you doing? You're expanding your muscles. You're able to lift more weights. You start off with you see a 25-pound weight here. Next thing you know, you're lifting 30, 50, and you're expanding. That's nice and a natural, and that has a little bit of value. But what has the most value is our mind. That's the most powerful part of our being. If we can just think and expand how we think, then we will start growing in that area. And you become what we call a self-actualized person. A self-actualized person is someone who is more self-motivated. They're more we-focused, team-focused, somebody who's looking for that kind of stuff. The opposite of a self-actualized person would be someone who, they need a stroked ego, someone who is always needing someone to say, oh, good job, good job. That's the only way they can keep going. Or sometimes those people need a reprimand, or they have to be intimidated before they start doing something. But most of the time, the people who are the opposite, they need to be compensated, because unfortunately, again, the focus is only there. Well, I'll do it if you pay me. That's the kind of mindset we're talking about. We need to get that out of our heads so we can have more room to expand and to fit good, positive content that's going to actually make us successful. So what I want to talk about, it's called the ERG theory. It's existence, relatedness, and growth. That's what the ERG stands for. And that's a really simple thing. The first and basic needs that we have in life is food, shelter, security, those kind of things. We have to achieve those things. If we don't, then it's hard for us to grow. The second thing is we have social and internal needs, basically having healthy relationships, healthy thoughts about ourselves. Those are the areas that most people don't go past. They get stuck in that area. They don't realize that, that they can actually grow and keep expanding. They don't realize that. And so when they get stuck here, then all they're doing is constantly focusing on these things. And what will happen is you'll find yourself getting frustrated. So if today you find yourself getting frustrated where you're at in life, there's a good chance that you're actually going down this chart because you're focusing too much on relatedness and existence and not focusing enough on growth. So in order to be a self-actualized person, what you need to do is you need to keep getting more self-education. And the great thing about it is once you figure out, like we were talking about before, how your mind works, what are your natural abilities, and what are your natural intelligences. Once you learn what those are for yourself, you will find more levels of fulfillment than you've ever known that you could have, because you're actually utilizing and working in your abilities. And when you do that, it just brings such satisfaction. And if you're feeling today satisfaction a majority of the time in life, then congratulations, because you're moving up this chart. You're actually making a difference in your own life. And when you make a difference in your own life as a self-actualized person, you actually help make a difference in other people's life as well, whether you know it or not. So we're going to talk about two different ways that you can move forward with these different thought processes. The first way is called mono-idealism. What that means is focus. You just figure out what it is that you need to expand, or you need to think about to expand your context. What is it that will help you in that area? And then you just have laser focus on that. Or you can go with the second approach. Again, there's only really two ways, and it's called multitasking. Now, multitasking, it's neurologically impossible for your brain to multitask. So what really happens, and it's funny because you hear a lot of people say things like, it's almost like a pride thing. It's like they're proud that they're able to multitask, and they wear it like a badge. But the thing about multitasking is it's really, you're jumping back and forth. Every time you go from one task to another task, your brain has to stop what it was doing and reload the new content. And then you go back to the other one, and it has to stop that process and reload the content. So having productive multitasking is really just a myth. But what you can do is you can focus on multiple different tasks that are like similar tasks that are doing basically the same thing. Then you can work on things and progress through them faster if you're willing to organize things a little bit better like that. So I'm going to talk about that problem that we just talked about is a problem that there's a good amount of people that have that issue. But I want to say this next issue that we need to get past is one that probably everybody has dealt with at one point, and some people is a real struggle. And if it's a real struggle for you, then we're going to get you through it right here today. And that is tomorrow. It's a noun. Tomorrow is a mystical land where 99% of all human productivity, motivation, and achievement is stored. What is that? That's procrastination. Procrastination is one of those things that you get frustrated with yourself because you want to do something, but you just don't feel like it, and no matter what, you just can't make yourself do it. Well, we do have a level of willpower, but unfortunately, each person has a very limited amount. And once that's used up for the day, it's done. what's going on when you find yourself procrastinating? Why is it that I just can't make myself go out and do it? Why can't you make yourself go out and do something? It's because we have multiple systems in our mind, and there's two particular systems that are usually conflicting with each other that cause procrastination, real procrastination, to kick in. And I'm not talking about people who are just being lazy. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about real procrastination. And these two systems that we're talking about is the system of survival and the system to accomplish. The system of survival means like I need to eat food, I need to rest, those kind of things that your body knows that it needs to accomplish or to get done in order to survive. We need that. We have to have that system. It's a warning sign. And then we have another system that we get fulfillment when we accomplish things, and we also need that too to be productive human beings, to feel good about our lives. We have to have that system. But what happens is when, let's say that you're tired, then the system of survival is kicking in and it's saying you need to rest, you need to rest, and then all of a sudden you're feeling bad because you're not getting something done that needs to be done, and then your system of accomplishment is saying no, we need to get this done. So they're conflicting internally. It almost sounds like schizophrenia or something, but it really is happening. But there's a solution for it that everybody can do. But the thing about this is what happens. I want to tell you the downfall of this. Probably most of you already know. When these two systems conflict, oftentimes neither one wins because your body is equally trying to fight against the same thing. And so what happens is we often find ourselves plopping down on the couch and turning on the TV, and that's where we spend the rest of our evening. And then the next day, the kind of same process happens again. So that's never a good thing, obviously, for long periods of time. But there is a solution, and it's called work and rest. What we need to do is it's real simple. We need to set firm times. So let's just say that you typically go to bed at 11 o'clock. So if you go to bed at 11, the ideal thing would be to head to somewhere comfy, even if it's in bed or wherever it is, at like 10 o'clock, 1 hour before you go to sleep. And then what you could do is you read a book, or if you're like me, listen to audio. And you know what you could do? You could actually read or listen to something that is going to expand your context. Maybe it's something to help you think about. Maybe it's something to help with one of your intelligences, to build on your abilities, to just make your mind think about the right words that will increase and expand your productivity in life. Those kind of things. So you can actually you're doubling up on this. You're actually getting your mind ready to rest, but at the same time you're expanding your context. And that's amazing to me that that'll happen. And then by the time the hour is up, now your brain's ready to sleep and you don't have a hard time falling asleep. It really works. And if that doesn't work, you can find something that's similar to that. But that helps you set firm times. So now when you wake up, you're ready to go. You can accomplish things like you want to. And those two systems in your brain won't conflict anymore. And it's just amazing to me. Our brains are so creative. They're more creative, I think, than we even know. I feel like I'm just scratching the surface on what we can do and what we can create if we just harness what our brains are capable of. You see, our brains, they're always running mental simulations all the time. They're predicting things. Like every second of the day, we're looking at something, and our brains are trying to predict the next instance. And that's what makes our brains more powerful than computers and everything else, because they just have that capability to take memories and things like that and put them in a simulation and then put it all together, and we can figure out something. Think about it this way. Think about when you read an email or you get a text. How do you read that? We oftentimes say that they're misinterpreted sometimes, and someone might have had the best intention, but when you read it, you have a negative undertone. That's because probably the last time you spoke with that person and saw their facial expressions and heard the tone of their voice, you probably heard them in a way that was more of a negative undertone or upset, something like that. So the next time you get a text or email, your brain automatically thinks of it that way. But the good thing is that you can actually use this for something very positive, and you can actually make huge strides in growth if you learn to tap into this. And so what we're going to talk about here is we're going to talk more about mental simulation. It's just like Google Maps. So I got a picture of a Google map here, and the thing about Google Maps is it's real simple. You have a point A, that's where you start off at, and all you have to do is enter point B, that's your destination. When you enter your destination, what does Google Maps do? It calculates. and it gives you the path, and it even gives you different directions if you want to do this or avoid that. All these different ideas. That's how Google Maps work. So let me just show you how powerful this is. How can you use this as a tangible way to actually affect and change things in your life? Let me just show you something. Let's say that one of your closest friends said, you know what, I was planning a trip to Spain, and then all of a sudden something came up and I can't go, and I don't want it to go to waste, so I'm going to let you have it. You don't have to pay me or anything like that. Just take it. That's awesome. And if you really put that in your head that this is true, what you would do is that you would run a simulation. So free trip to Spain in 3 days, that would be your point B. Okay, so now what does your brain automatically do? Within microseconds, your brain is saying, okay, I need to check on my flights. I need to make sure my calendar is clear and figure out what I can do with the calendar. I got 3 days. I need to pack my clothes. All these different things that's your calculation. That's what's connecting point A to point B. And our brains do it in microseconds. It doesn't take long at all to do. It's really cool, actually, because now what you can do is all you really need to focus on is your point B. Point B is your goal. So point B, or your goal, has to be something that makes that's very clear. So make point B goals that are clear. Examples of goals that are not clear would be like, I want to lose weight. That's not a clear goal because it's not really 100% under your control necessarily. Or I just want to be happier. That's not a clear goal. What you need to make is your goals need to be effort driven. The ones I just gave you examples of are result driven. So how do you change that? How do you change it from effort driven to result driven? Oh, I'm sorry, result driven to effort driven. What you need to do is you need to think about this. Okay, so you want to lose weight. What can you do? I can work out at a gym. We were talking about gym earlier, so let's talk more about that. I want to work out 30 minutes a day, and I want to start doing that tomorrow or today or whatever you choose to do. And then that is measurable. You can actually say, I'm going to work out 30, and it works. Or I want to be happy. Okay, what can you do about that? I want to start reading one book a month that talks about different mindsets that can make me think correctly. There's unlimited information out there. That's an attainable goal. It's achievable. It's measurable. It's very clear. Your brain works much better with clear goals. When you start putting things out there that aren't measurable, like I want to lose weight or I want to be happy, your mind doesn't really know what to do with it. It goes crazy, calculating all over the place. But if you have a clear-cut path like that, what's going to happen is you will be able to take all of these steps between point A and point B because it'll be very measurable, and it just makes your job so much easier. So here's what I want to do. If you guys have a phone nearby you, or if you're on your computer and you have a notepad on there, I'd like for you guys to do something here that it could possibly completely change your life. It's something I started doing as well, and it's amazing to me. And we're gonna work on these point A's and point B's really easy, and we're gonna do it really quick. It only takes, we can go through this process in 1 minute, but what you need to do is grab a piece of paper and a pen or a notepad, or like I said, on your computer or phone, either way, and just grab something out. And what you're going to do is you're going to write on top of it your five-fold why, okay? The five-fold why is this. What I want most in life is point B, your goal. What is your point B? What is that? That's what that's going to be. So just think of Google Maps again. Think of point A. That's where you're at right now today, at this very moment. And what you want most in life is your point B, okay? And so we need to get that in place so our brain can function and accomplish this for us. Our brains are so smart. They know there's more information there than we think there is. So if you got something to write that out. What is the most important thing in life that you want to get out of life right now? And then you're going to write 1 through 5, and you're going to take this answer right here, what it is you want most in life, and you're going to ask yourself, why? Why do I want that? Whatever your answer is to your why, write that on your number 1 blank. And then it's real simple. Whatever's on your number 1 blank, ask yourself, why do I want that? And then your answer to that question would go on your number 2. And then the same thing with 3. Why do I want that answer on number 2? Then put that in number 3. Do that 4 and 5 times. And again, do not overthink this. Just do it quickly, and that way you're not overthinking, overanalyzing, because that's where things get messed up. While you're doing that, this is creating the clear goal, the clear idea of what it is that you want most in life. Because oftentimes it's like pre-written in the top of our minds, like, you know, I want to be rich. You know, that just, it's not clear enough that our minds don't know what to do with that. And why do we want to be rich? So we need to get to the exact reason, what it is that we want in life, what is our clear goal. So now that you have those 5, what we're going to do, underneath that or on a new pad, just write 5-fold how. So now you have your point A and you have your point B on your Google map in your head. But now it needs to calculate. And we're going to make it a lot easier for your brain to calculate really fast here. And again, just take a few seconds, don't take a long time. And you're going to answer, how can I accomplish this point B, this goal, your why? How can you answer it, or how can I accomplish this why? And again, the same thing. So, okay, how, and then once you have how do you do it, then ask, well, how do I do that? And write that in number 1. Then how do you do that? Write that in your number 2. And keep doing that through all 5 until, or at least until you get to a point where you can't think of anything else, but without thinking too much into it. That is your calculation. That is your route. That's what gives you the ability to connect point A and point B. So now you have your point A and point B, and you have the way to get there. And you can follow this. If you actually do it, you can make quite a bit of a growth on it very, very, very quick. You know, most people, you know, when they're doing these kind of things, they have a hard time setting, you know, these goals. They have a hard time with it, but it really is simple. If you follow this process, it does not take long at all to do. And so hopefully you guys got that down. I really hope so, because if not, please do it later, because this is something that will help you. Now I'm going to just kind of transition a little bit here. I want to tell you a story. It's a true story. This happened in San Diego, California. Okay, there was a nursing home there, and they brought in a consultant team because they were just so confused about why this situation was happening. The situation was this: as elderly people were coming in, they were finding out that about 50% of the elderly people would come in, and then within a small window of a few months to a couple of years, they would pass away. And then the other 50% that came in would go on to live long, happy lives, and they were actually content. And so the thing is that both groups were coming into this nursing home with the same medical conditions. So that didn't separate them. You know, we thought, well, you know, that's what I would have thought too, was maybe there's an issue with their medical, and that's what made them unhappy, and that's what. But that's not what it was. Medical had nothing to do with it. So they're like trying to figure this out, right? Well, what they found is this: the 50% that were happier were one of the things they noticed was when they had lunch and dinner, they would exchange food with their friends, or they would just throw away food that they didn't want, and they basically were in control of what they were eating. And then the other thing they found out they were noticing they were doing was these elderly that were happy and living longer lives, they would rearrange their rooms, and some of the furniture was glued to the wall. They would literally pry some of the furniture off of their wall and rearrange it. Now the director of the nursing home was actually getting upset about this. You know, he's like, man, these elderly are rebellious. I can't believe what they're doing. But then when the team figured out what was going on, it was like a light bulb clicked all of a sudden. And you're like, wait a minute, there's something about that. And so what they found out is that if they have free choice to choose, and just even little things, it doesn't have to be everything, but if they just have some places where they can make free choice, it makes them feel like they have control in their life. And when they have control in their life, it makes all the difference in the world. So what they implemented here, the staff, was they made it so that they got to start planning their own meals. They made it so that they can rearrange their own rooms. They stopped gluing them to the wall. And all of a sudden now that everybody was, it was ridiculous. I mean, it went up to like 85% of the people there were just were living longer and happy, and it was a really cool thing. And this became quite a popular nursing home. And the thing about it is what they found out is that, you know, basically just being able to strive for new achievements and strive for new growth, that's what produces happiness, and it does it for long periods of time, not just quick happiness for today and it's over. It actually gave them purpose in life. And I don't think it's any different from elderly to us. You know, I've experienced this in my own life. You know, I had a great grandmother that lived to be, I think she died just a month before she was 101 years old. And what I've always seen is that when they, and I've wondered this myself, is that when they go from being independent to all of a sudden happen to go into a place where everybody's taking care of everything for them, it's like a sharp decline in their life, and it just happens so quickly. And now we understand what it is. All of us as human beings, we need to understand that we have choice in life. We have a choice that we can control a little bit of the direction. Some things are out of our control, but what's not out of our control is what do we do with it. When a situation comes up, how do we handle that situation? Our mindsets, that is what makes all the difference and as we go through life. And so basically we just need something to be enthusiastic about. That's what makes us happy. And for some it's very, very simple. So basically in closing, I just want to cover a couple things here, just a couple little ideas here. Here's something very practical as well. Our brain, it can handle external thoughts a lot better than internal thoughts. Sometimes our mind will tell us, hey, we're not good at that, or we'll never be able to accomplish this, or I can't afford that. These are all internal thoughts. We all deal with them. I've never met somebody that hasn't dealt with those kind of things if they're being honest. But what we can do, there's something we can do about it, is not dealing with these thoughts. Let me just give you an example first before I go into it. So we got a trainer here, okay? Again, we were talking about the gym a couple times, so I'll keep talking about that through here. When you go to the gym and you're working out, you can probably tell yourself, you know what, I don't want to do any more reps. This is good, or I can't push it anymore. This is good enough for me. Those are kind of things that are internal thoughts, and sometimes we even say, you know, I don't need to go to the gym anymore. After all, I went this long, it's good enough. Those are internal thoughts. But the difference is having a trainer is it's an external thought because they're telling you something. She's saying 4 more reps, you can do it. And so she's encouraging them, and that's an external thought, so your body relates to that differently. Your brain says, you know what, I can do it, and then you push yourself. It's a big difference. So what can we do? It's real simple. You can diarize it. You need to take those thoughts that you're having, like I said, I can't do it, you're not good enough at that, or all those things, and write them on a piece of paper. It works so well. If you just do this, it works very, very well. And what you're doing is you're externalizing the thought process so that you can read the words and you can dispel anything that's a lie by looking at it, because our brain can function reading that better. It's like when it's in our mind, we don't, we just accept it as truth. But when it's on paper, you're like, wait a minute, that's not true. Or if it is true, then you actually have it externalized, so you can say, well, what can I do about it? And then write the answer down. Then you can actually make a positive change in your life. It really works. It helps with fear, it helps with anxiety, it helps with laziness, and it works really well with self-doubt. So basically what it does is it helps you to think about what it is you're really thinking about and get it out on paper. That's one of the best things you could do. Our minds, as I'm just finishing up, closing here, I just want to say something here. Our minds, it's an important part of our success. Anything you can do it today. Today is the day to start making the change. Who doesn't want more optimism? Who doesn't want more hope in their life? Who doesn't want more happiness? Who doesn't want to achieve more things and feel more successful? Tomorrow doesn't even exist. I've only seen today's personally. I mean, I've never seen tomorrow. I've only lived today. I've only seen today. Today's accomplishers are today's winners. When they get it done today and they finish the task and they say, I accomplished it, those are the winners. Those are the people who feel successful in life. Those are the ones who live longer, happier lives on average. Those are the ones who feel like they are in control of their destiny. They can do what they want to do and achieve what they want to achieve. Successful people, they make plans and then they follow them. The key is to follow them. It's a 2-step action guide. Make a plan and then follow it. Both of them take action. But you know what? I know, friends, because you're here today, I know that you're not average. I know that you're striving to expand the context in your mind so you can be more successful. And so I just want to encourage you to keep walking forward in your journey. I know you can do it. Thanks a lot. Chris, back over to you.
Thanks, Matt. That was fantastic. Again, lots of information, lots of brilliant information, some new stuff for me. I always say every day is a school day, that five-fold way, the five-fold why and the five-fold how. Never seen that before. I did exactly as you said, and I've wrote stuff down. It's certainly inspired me to go further, not just with ISN, but with many things in my life. So thanks for that, Matt. I appreciate that. And you were talking about the truth a lot there, and I can't remember who it was. It was probably Einstein that said that all that exists is the truth or the resistance of it. So what's true is, and what isn't, you can resist all you want, but the truth is the truth. And there were some very simple and very poignant truths in what Matt said there, and I'm sure if you take them on board and you add them to your toolbox of life, you will no doubt serve you very, very well. So congratulations for you guys that are on here tonight. There's going to be one more webinar next Tuesday, and Matt's going to take that. It's going to be the third in his trilogy, and obviously Matt's coming over on the 4th and 5th of June. So you definitely need to be there because he's going to be putting all this stuff together and encapsulating it over the 2 days. There's going to be lots more. Ray Sinclair's going to be speaking, Gamgee's going to be speaking, so we've got all sorts of information for you over those 2 days. But do yourself a favour, don't just bring yourself. Make sure you get on the phone, make sure you promote it. We always say, be the promoter, not the boxer. The boxer just gets knocked out and gets bloody. The promoter's the one that makes the money. So make sure that you promote the 4th and 5th. You've all had the emails. And again, I just want to thank Matt for that fantastic information. I shall certainly be putting it into play over the next few days, and I hope you guys do so too. So we'll see you next Tuesday. There will be no Monday webinar next Tuesday, same time, same place, 7:30 with Matt Barkus. And don't forget that Matt's over on the 4th and 5th in London. So with that, we'll say good night.